Welcome, my friends, to Conspiracy or Conspiracy. Today is September 6th, 2023, and the Tucker Carlson interview with Larry Sinclair, alleged male prostitute who says that he had sex with Barack Obama before he became president, it's been uploaded. It's been done. And so we're going to do a live reaction to that. Hey, there might be better conspiracy shows out there, but can you say that there are better conspiracy shows with music like that for the intro? Joining me is my good friend, D. Jodeci. Welcome.
Hello, Wes, and thanks for welcoming on the show tonight.
Of course. Good to have you here. So, yeah, it sounds like you told me I'm in for some entertainment. You've seen it.
You are.
So do we learn some new things in this interview, or?
Oh, well, sorta and sorta. It's kind of like everything he said before. At least his story, what he tells, is the same as what he said clear back in, what, 09?
Yep. So this should be pretty interesting. We'll give it a few minutes here as folks circulate into the chat. Hail, Parrothead. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you. This should be pretty entertaining here as we go through this. I always like a good conspiracy. And, it's fun seeing things filter out of what used to be kind of really a niche-y kind of, public access AM radio ecosystem into what we're experiencing now and the way it's changing and coalescing and turning into something different. It really is interesting. It's interesting to see kind of mainstream. Well, Tucker's evolution has been interesting to watch anyway. I don't know if you remember him from when he was on was it Crossfire? He was on Crossfire, right?
Yeah. Well, that was quite a few years ago, though.
He still looks pretty much the same aside from the bow tie.
I kind of miss the bow tie. Bow ties are cool.
Yeah, I kind of miss the bow tie too. Now that I think about it, I thought it was dorky and ridiculously, kind of stupid when he wore it at the time. But now that he doesn't have it, it's like, well, that was kind of Tucker Carlson's thing. Man, the thing.
Right. And, I think Trump would approve of bow ties being cool.
Yep. We hold these truths to be self. The thing, man, the bow tie. Hail, Mikhail Wolf. Welcome, my friend.
Right. I have noticed, though, this Larry dude's getting a lot of shit on the X because of what he was wearing for this interview.
Oh, was it what was it, something weird?
Both his hands had wrist brace on them.
Interesting. I'll have to look for weird symbols on those. Sometimes that can tell you something. Well, let me go ahead and, since you're on the panel here, knight you as a mod. There we go. So let me cue it up. I thought I had it queued up. What the heck just happened? So I have invited Drew to join us, and I haven't heard anything yet. It is a lot later where he's at. So he's East Coast time. Would not be surprised if he's not in bed right now.
I won't let the power go out on my head, Parrothead.
So without delay, let's get this thing going. But I thought for sure I'd have more people watching, given the nature of the interview here.
In retrospect, it's pretty amazing that Barack Obama got as far as he did. In 2004, the summer of 2004, Barack Obama gave the keynote address at the Democratic Convention in Boston. And when he walked to the podium, probably only a small percentage of people in the room knew how to pronounce his name. He was totally unheard of. No one knew Barack Obama. At the time, he was a state senator in Illinois. 4 years later, he once again spoke to the Democratic convention, but this time as the nominee. Meteoric doesn't begin to describe it. How did this happen? Well, the outlines are fairly well known, though rarely talked about. A small group of Democratic donors, mostly in Chicago, decided that Barack Obama was their guy. He was the vessel for their ambitions. They paid for his campaign. They paved the way for his rise. He spent 2 years pointlessly in the United States Senate preparing to run for president in 2008. And of course, in the end, he won. But the question was, who was this man? Where did he come from? What did he spend his life doing before he became president of the United States? Well, the news media, whose job it is to answer those questions, spent the entire 2008 campaign trying to keep you from knowing the answers. By election day, most Americans
I don't think she knows
one thing about Barack Obama, other than he was handsome and a good communicator: hope and change. But they knew nothing about him, his origins, what he believed, and legitimate questions about those facts were turned away, as they often are, with the claim, "That's a conspiracy theory. You're crazy. Shut up." One of the most interesting moments in the 2008 campaign occurred when a man, like Obama himself, came from out of nowhere to recount his experiences with Barack Obama, the man.
So yeah, this is interesting. I'm still not used to Twitter being X. I don't understand that. I don't know what the calculation was behind that or why Musk made that move.
He loves the letter X.
Well, I suppose it's more in favor than Q these days.
True.
Yeah, let's keep going here.
His name was Larry Sinclair, and he told an amazing story. He said that in 1999, he had encountered Barack Obama in Illinois, had sex with Barack Obama, and then used cocaine with him. Sinclair went on to make these claims public.
No fair.
The National Press Club in Washington to sign a sworn affidavit and to take a lie detector test. But he was dismissed.
Keeps freezing up on me.
In fact, he was attacked. Obama shills like Ben Smith of Politico batted the claims out without refuting them. They're absurd. And the rest of the media followed suit. But the claims weren't absurd. We're not claiming they're true, but they were certainly credible. This was a first-hand account of Barack Obama's behavior by someone who was willing to sign a sworn affidavit to that effect. So the question is, whatever happened to Larry Sinclair? What's his life been like since? That's an interesting story. It turns out Larry Sinclair is still alive. He lives in Mexico. But today...
Can't say I blame him for that.
And we're happy to have him. Larry Sinclair, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Where did you meet Barack Obama?
It was by accident. I was in the Chicago area.
Oh, okay. He's got those carpal tunnel things on.
Yep.
That is interesting. Yeah. I use something similar when I'm working out. I have these wrist wrap gloves that I use. But that is odd that he's wearing it on stream. Okay.
99 for Lee Duke's graduation from the Naval Academy.
Who's Lee Duke?
He's basically my godson.
Okay.
I had hired a limousine service.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you live in Chicago then?
No. I was actually living in Colorado. I had flown in the night before.
Okay.
So I had hired a limousine service, had made the driver aware that if Lee couldn't leave the base, because once they
Oh, wait, maybe that's what I'm doing
graduate,
wrong.
some of them actually get their assignments and they're shipping out and they can't.
Let me try something different. Maybe this thing is struggling because I'm sharing the entire screen. It's been a while since I've used StreamYard, so I'm a little rusty.
Yeah, and they seem to keep tweaking things left and right.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe I did do it right. I'm just not used to playing videos on
leave the
Twitter.
base, that I was still interested in going out, and had asked the driver if he knew anybody that was available that might want to show me, Chicago. And he said he did. So
Who was the driver?
his name was Jameer Multani. It was with 5-star limo.
So you're just a guy who's in town for the night, and it sounds like you're looking to party, actually. Yeah.
That's
what you were really saying.
Yeah. Well, I was in town for a few nights, but yeah, I was definitely looking to party.
Hail Keely Chow.
And
Did you make that clear to the driver?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was no misunderstanding.
How
between-
direct were you about that?
extremely.
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 Okay.
Yeah. There was no doubt what I was looking for.
Okay.
And he picked me up at my hotel in Gurnee and drove into Chicago, pulled up in a bar outside, and there's this guy that's introduced to me as Barack Obama. It was literally that casual.
Wait, I thought he was introduced as Barry Satoro.
No, well, not according to this interview.
Okay. I'll have to look at his older interview. Maybe he was introduced as Barack Obama. Well, the plot thickens here.
Because as the video goes, he's going to say he had no idea about the Barry name.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Did the driver know him?
Yep. The driver definitely knew him because the driver said that he was a friend.
Interesting. How would the driver
Wait, that he was a what?
be friends with Barack Obama?
A friend?
I only found out later.
Shit, is the limo driver alive?
Dealing with a reporter from Bloomberg News that apparently the limousine company had been doing business with Tony Resco, that at the time was somehow affiliated
Was
with
in
Barack
Obama's
Obama.
orbit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. So he knew Barack Obama.
Well, that Resco is so dirty, even Hillary was trying to nail Obama with that. So that's bad.
And in his view, Barack Obama liked the same kind of partying you were looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. So sex and drugs, in other words.
The sex part I wasn't so sure about until, of course, you make your move, but it became obvious very quick. The coke part I thought was interesting because of the way that I had brought it up.
So I'm stepping on your story. So
Technical difficulties. Apologies. Must be getting a lot of views. Yeah, I've not seen a video on Twitter.
and I apologize. So you pull up to this bar. The driver is basically scouting some dude for you to hang out with.
Correct.
There's this guy, Barack Obama. Have you ever heard of Barack Obama?
Never. Okay. Never. We're having drinks. I mentioned the fact that I could use something to wake up. I was extremely exhausted.
So you went into the bar?
Yes, sir.
What kind of bar was it?
I'm trying to remember. I've been trying to remember the name. I know that the glasses had 3 X's on them because I remember taking one home for a friend of mine.
But I mean, generally characterize it. Was it?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it loading. Usually it loads the video.
Working class bar, gay bar, strip bar.
It was upscale.
Yeah, I can see why. He hasn't wanted it out there. That's why the people with the DLC, the Down Low Club or whatever, why they ended up dead. There is an Obama death list.
Wasn't really that
Oh, fucking shit.
You want me to
That
try to share the video?
really didn't have a lot of energy to it. It
Yeah,
was
give
more
it a
relaxed,
shot.
more like
Maybe
a
you
lounge.
might have better look at it than I am. It could be on my end though, because I feel like I'm freezing up a little bit.
Okay, I've just linked it down to you. I will blow it up full screen.
All right, let's see. I'm it doesn't really give me. I'm gonna say like a sixth of the way through, a little bit further. Right about there.
Only found out later,
It's working better for
dealing
you.
with a reporter from Bloomberg News, that apparently the limousine company had been doing business with Tony Resco,
Oh,
that at the time was somehow affiliated
was
with
in
Barack
Obama's
Obama.
orbit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. So he knew Barack Obama, and in his view, Barack Obama liked the same kind of partying you were looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. So sex and drugs and upwards.
The sex part I wasn't so sure about until, of course, you make your move, but it became obvious very quick. The coke part I thought was interesting because of the way that I had brought it up.
So I'm stepping on your story. So you pull, and I apologize. So you pull up to this bar. The driver is basically scouting some dude for you to hang out with.
Correct.
There's this guy, Barack Obama. Have you ever heard of Barack Obama?
Never.
Okay.
Never. We're having drinks. I mentioned the fact that I could use something to wake up. I was extremely exhausted.
So you went into the bar.
Yes, sir.
What kind of bar was it?
I'm trying to remember. I've been trying to remember the name. I know that the glasses had 3 X's on them, because I remember taking one home for a friend of mine.
What, but I mean, generally characterize it. Was it?
It was
working class bar,
no,
gay
it was
bar, strip
upscale.
bar?
It was upscale, quiet. Wasn't really that that really didn't have a lot of energy to it. It was more relaxed, more like a lounge as opposed to somewhere where people would go and get loud and crazy.
Yeah.
Which made it easier to talk. But like I said, when I brought up the fact that I could use something to wake up, he immediately knew what I was referring to, had made it clear that I was looking for coke, and I really was, and had made the suggestion that he knew where we could get it, and we left to go get it.
Interesting. Did he say what he did for a living?
Nope. I had no idea that he was a representative in the Illinois House. I had no idea
Neither
he was
did the
in
rest
politics.
of us.
I
Yeah,
just knew that
man.
he was supposedly married, and at the time was going through some issues with the marriage.
He said that?
That was made clear. Yeah.
Did he say what kind of issues?
No.
Do you remember? No. So you said, I'm looking for someone to wake up. He knows you're referring to cocaine. I know where to get it. What happens next?
We get back in the limo. The driver takes us wherever it is that Barack had instructed him to take us. I had given Barack $250 to pay for coke. He gets out, comes back. I start putting a line on a CD tray to snort.
And you're in the limo.
Yep.
Driving or parked?
No, the driver's driving.
Yeah.
I start to put a line on a CD tray, and I just happen to notice that he pulls something else out of his pocket. And next thing I know, he's got a little pipe and he's smoking. So I don't have an issue with it. I mean, some people smoke, some people snort.
Smoking the cocaine.
Yes.
This is all
So
very
as
bizarre
I'm
to
doing
me.
a line,
It
I
is.
just start.
It'll get
This is the
stranger.
part where you kind of make your move to see where things are going. So I just started rubbing my hand along his thigh to see where it was going, and it went the direction I had intended it to go. So the night became somewhat active sexually and drug-wise in the limo.
So you hit on him. Did he
Time
seem
you
shocked
want me
by
to
that?
pause it,
Not at
just
all.
tell me.
Yeah. I mean, if you're smoking crack with a
Okay.
stranger in the back of a limo, like
Well,
you got
I'm-
to imagine things might go crazy places.
If
Well,
you think there's a place we
not
need to
only
pause and
imagine it-
comment, let me know.
I look
I
at it
haven't
this
seen it
way.
yet.
Look, I've done a lot of crazy things in my lifetime. I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I pretty much know whether or not I can move in a certain direction with an individual. I didn't feel that I was going in the wrong direction. I just wasn't so sure how much
Tiki,
I could
tiki,
trust
tiki.
the individual
Tiki.
at first. And that was probably one of my bigger concerns. But the fact that I was already becoming somewhat buzzed, you kind of throw caution to the wind.
You weren't sure you could trust the individual. What does that mean?
When you meet someone out of the blue and you go to a level that you're doing drugs with, or you're giving money to purchase drugs, or even for sexual activity, you have to be sure that you can trust them. And when I say trust, I mean that you're not going to end up being robbed, or that you're not going to end up having a knife stuck into you,
Right.
From one direction or another, or that you're not going to pull up somewhere and all of a sudden the car door is going to open and you got 5 people pulling you out of it.
Totally.
That's what I mean when I say trust
This
someone.
is so weird.
And you've been around at this point
Oh,
in
yeah.
your life, big time.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you just wouldn't
So,
think somebody that would end up
probably
as
not the
president would
first
be
time in
into
a
this shit.
situation like this.
Not at all. And that's why I said I pretty much
Or
know
at least
where I
not
can
this
go
open.
and
Yeah.
at what point.
I mean, reckless.
So you start rubbing his leg, and I think, I'll just be totally blunt with you, like a man who's not into gay sex would be like, whoa, settle down.
Trust me, if it was something that you were not interested in,
Yeah.
and you're right, I've had guys that I read wrong that would literally try to break your hand.
For sure.
If you went in that route. So it's not like this was something that he wasn't into. It's not something that he was shocked by. Shocked by, you don't get excited and you don't unbutton your pants and you don't just sit there and let it happen.
Yeah.
So it definitely wasn't Barack's first time. That much I'm absolutely certain of. And I would almost be willing to bet you it wasn't his last.
So you performed oral
Not if
sex
he's
on
with Big
Barack
Mike.
Obama. You did. In the driver's up front.
Yep.
And he's cool with this.
The driver has the partition up. He didn't have a problem with it. He didn't put it down for any reason.
I mean, he kind of set up the whole thing for this in the first place.
Exactly. And I have a funny feeling he had no bones to pick with it as far as what took place.
Yeah. So what happened after?
Afterwards, I actually went back to my hotel. I had specifically asked that he drop Barack off first, but for some reason, he and Barack chose that they would drop me off at the hotel first, and then he would take Barack. So Barack actually made the drive out to Gurnee, which is a suburb outside of Chicago.
On many levels,
to the
Tiki,
hotel
on many
for
levels.
me to be dropped off.
What hotel was that?
It was the Comfort Inn in Gurnee.
Ooh, that sounds depressing.
Well, you have to remember it was 99.
Yeah. No,
and it was close to the Great Lakes Naval Facilities.
Yeah.
But I got dropped off. They left. The next day was somewhat interesting because he ends up showing up at my hotel room, which I thought was somewhat weird, but
he wanted some more.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say he showed up,
he showed up. I mean, I had no warning. I was in the room. There's a knock on the door. I opened the door and he's standing there. And he's standing there with more coke, and he comes in, and it was just like a quick, rehash or rerun from the night before.
Exact same program.
Exact same program.
Was he?
Okay, I got to bring up a point here.
Yeah, this whole thing, this is weird, man.
This is weird, and it doesn't make sense because a decade before that, I actually stayed at that Comfort Inn that he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he's filing out all this money for drugs, sex, all that, why the hell would you stay at a lowbrow hotel? That it wasn't that good there.
Yeah, Comfort Inn, that's like, well, I wouldn't say it's lowbrow, but it's not, it's not like a Hilton or anything.
No, it's not. I would classify it maybe mid-tier, but it's not that impressive. It just things in the story. But it gets stranger, because wait until you hear who else gets thrown into this.
All right.
Smoking again? Yep. So Barack Obama smokes crack, and then you perform oral sex on him.
And like I said, the only reason I had come out about it is I had reached out to the campaign even in 2007, only because I saw all these kids getting excited about it.
Okay, wait. So, how did that end? Like,
Same way. You get off, you finish smoking, you leave.
thanks,
Wait,
bye.
what?
Mhm.
Let me rewind that part.
What did you think of him?
Wait, did he say that he
I thought it
had
was
Wait,
interesting.
Here,
Did-
I'll
did he
read
have
I
it?
thought
Was-
it was definitely a con. Dropped off.
What hotel was that?
It was the Comfort Inn in Gurney.
Ooh,
okay,
sounds
pause it.
depressing.
Well,
So,
Yeah.
so did he say that he contacted him in 2007 when he was running for president and they had another encounter?
No, this was all supposed to be before he even did the presidential thing.
In 2007, though, right?
Yeah.
Wow, man, this is weird.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, Tiki of Doom says he's also been to this hotel around the same time frame.
No, Tiki, that was 10 years before that, and that was where I had to stay the night before they shipped me out for basic training.
Oh well,
Yeah.
maybe that was the explanation that he gave, was that it was close to a naval base and he wanted
Yeah,
to pick
he said it's next to the naval base there in Chicago, and it's not that far, no.
so he wanted to pick up some Navy boys, maybe as well.
Probably.
Pick that hotel. Okay, well that makes a little bit more sense.
But it's still not that great of a place.
Yeah, well, most Comfort Inns are. Yeah.
have to remember it was 99.
Yeah, no,
And it was close to the Great Lakes Naval facilities.
Yeah.
But I got dropped off. They left. The next day was somewhat interesting because he ends up showing up at my hotel room, which I thought was somewhat weird, but
He wanted some more.
mhm.
So when you say he showed up,
He showed up. I mean, I had no warning. I was in the room. There's a knock on the door. I open the door and he's standing there. And he's standing there with more Coke, and he comes in, and it was just like a quick, rehash or rerun from the night before.
exact same program.
Exact same program.
Was he smoking again? So Barack Obama smokes crack, and then you perform oral sex on him.
And like I said, the only reason I had come out about it is I had reached out to the campaign even in 2007, only because I saw all these kids getting excited about it.
Okay, wait. So how did that end? Like,
Same way. You get off, you finish smoking, you leave.
thanks, bye.
Mhm.
Huh. What did you think of him?
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was definitely a con. But
What do you mean by that?
well, in my life at that point, you made it clear I had already been around.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So when people are doing things because they actually really enjoy it, or they're sincere, or they're looking, for a connection, or they're doing something because they're looking for an in, or they're looking for a hook, or it's a game.
Yeah.
So for me, I felt that it was a game for him. It was like, okay, what am I going to get out of it? Or is there something I can get out of it other than just, the sexual part?
Right.
And lucky for me, I wasn't going back to Chicago anytime soon. So it really didn't matter.
So you were left with a bad taste in your mouth.
Something. Yeah.
Whoa.
I told you
Did
Tucker says some funny things.
Talk to him again?
I did not. In fact,
And did you have any idea, even though you had sex with him twice, you did cocaine with him, watched him smoke crack twice, you had no idea who he was?
I had no idea who he was until I'm sitting in my house in Tequila, Nayarit, Mexico in 2004. And he walked on that stage
In Boston.
in the DNC convention. And I literally hit the floor. I just hit the floor and was.
Wait, so you're watching the Democratic convention from Mexico?
I was
and the guy that smoked crack in your Comfort Inn with you.
I was laughing so hard.
And you were sure it was him?
I was absolutely positive.
How?
I don't forget people I've met. I don't forget people I have spent time with. I just don't.
And just to restate, because I think you affirmed this, but he used his real name when you asked him.
Yes,
He calls himself Barack or Barry?
Barack.
Barack.
And so did the driver. And that's why at first, when everybody was referring to him as Barry, I just didn't understand or catch on. Because like I said, I didn't know that much about him, other than the fact that, hey, you know, you hook up, you know, today it's Grinder. Back then it was, you know,
The limo driver.
yeah, a limo driver or a bartender, you know. You ask and somebody knows somebody or somebody doesn't.
Amazing. Amazing. So you're sitting there in Mexico watching this and you think, that's the guy I had sex with who smoked crack it with me.
Yep.
And what do you think?
Like I said, I just started cracking up. I freaked out. I had even pointed out to some friends of mine that were at the house that night. And I told them, I said, you're not going to believe this. I said, I blew this guy twice, you know, and they just start cracking up. But that's the thing about me. I've never been in the closet. I've never hid. I mean, I'm always very direct and blunt. Yeah. And, you know, and I'm just like, this is unreal, you know, and I had no idea that he was going to run, you know, in 2008, but I was back from Mexico, but it was a strange feeling sitting there watching him walk across that stage and realizing who he was.
Huh. So what did you do? You said you reached out to the campaign?
Well, I didn't do anything in 2004, but when he announced his run for 2008, I did reach out to the campaign in late 2007 because I had seen a lot of these college kids talking about how thrilled they were, how there was a candidate who was completely honest about his entire life, his drug use, you know, what he did as when he was in school, you know, the constant back and forth. 1 minute is, yes, I did cocaine when I was younger, or no, I never did cocaine, but I smoked weed. So I just simply pointed out that all I was asking was, look, why don't you just simply come out and say, I did coke and I've done it as recently as 1999. You know, just tell the truth. Put it out there and be honest and let it stay as the truth rather than this back and forth. Never did hear anything back from them immediately.
Who did you reach out to? Do you remember?
I reached out to actually David Axelrod's office in Chicago. I'm
David
trying to remember the
Axelrod?
letters.
Yep.
Because it was actually 3 letters.
And did you say I had sex with Barack Obama?
This is the interesting part. My first contact with the campaign never mentioned the sex whatsoever. That was actually brought to my attention by someone who eventually reached out to me in late 2007, claiming to be with the campaign, but wasn't with the campaign.
What do you mean that was pointed out to you? So you never told anyone
never,
in the Obama campaign you had sex with Barack Obama?
Not in 2007, no.
Interesting. But they knew?
Yep.
How? Who? Well, that's weird.
I'm assuming Barack himself, because the phone calls that I got in late 2007 came from a gentleman that I have repeatedly identified as Donald Young. And it was Donald Young who had mentioned to me that the campaign was not.
Okay, I'll pause it right
there. Did that guy end up dead? Was Donald Young one of the DLC people?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, the plot thickens. So yeah, for those of you that are listening and maybe don't have a lot of background on this story, the story is, I'll just give a brief recap here. Let me full screen myself for a moment. So the allegation is that Barack Obama was engaging in some like DL homosexual activity while he was still married to Michelle, who everybody thought was a woman who may not be a woman. Jesus, where to even start? So Barack Obama, in addition to what Larry Sinclair is talking about, there are these men that the Reverend Wright, you know, goddamn America, supposedly had a club for DL men in the church that passes straight, and they, he connected these folks, and they called it the DLC. People thought it meant Democratic Leadership Council or something, and what it really meant was down low club of men that wanted to have sex with other men. And this David Young guy, I thought was one of those guys, and of many of them in the DLC ended up dead. So there we go. I think I've recapped that appropriately.
Yeah, he'll explain how this guy fits in with Wright during this.
Oh, okay. Well, shit. I should have just kept my mouth shut then. Go ahead.
Not going to acknowledge the sex and the drug interaction. And I was somewhat taken back because, like I said, I had never mentioned the sex to the campaign at all at that
Howdy,
point.
Keck.
I had in 2008, but I had not in 2000.
Okay, that is amazing, and I want to get to who Donald Young was in just a minute. But I apologize for being a bad interviewer. But let me just ask the obvious question: was what was Obama like on crack?
Actually, and I hate to say this because some people are going to think I'm really crazy. I knew a lot of people that smoked it because I was in Miami in the early 80s when it became quite popular. Similar to a friend of mine that I knew in Miami, gets extremely high, calm, almost euphoric. And then as it starts to come down, the twitching and the looking, anything that looks white that's sitting on the seat or the floor, you assume is another piece that fell off that, you can pick up and smoke. But while he was high, pretty much the same.
Pretty controlled.
Pretty controlled, euphoric, talkative, but not really saying anything.
So it was like his presidency.
Yeah, a lot like
Yeah.
was it your impression, and of course you would, strictly speaking, no, but was it your impression that this was the first time he'd ever smoked crack?
No. You don't, first of all, you don't buy crack, get in a limo and have a pipe in your pocket if it's the first time you smoke crack.
Yeah.
You just don't.
That makes sense. So I've read about your story to the extent it's been written about, not very much. But I'd never read that Donald Young, this man, Donald Young, called you and told you that he knew you'd had sex with Barack Obama.
That was the contact in late 2007 that I had that originally came under the guise that they were part of the Obama campaign.
So who was Donald Young?
Donald Young is a choir director and a school teacher. He was the choir director at Jeremiah Wright's church in Chicago, the same church that Barack Obama went to. He was also a very openly gay black man, but very well respected.
Did you know him?
I had never met him. I had not even realized that the person who was communicating with me had been killed until a good 2 months after.
So I'm going to get to that. So Donald Young is the choir director at Jeremiah Wright's church.
Yes.
And is it publicly confirmed that he knew Barack Obama?
Oh, yes. Yes. Donald Young's own mother has repeatedly said that she feels that her son died to protect Barack Obama.
It's just interesting that Donald Young would have called you. He's not working directly for the campaign that we know of.
Exactly.
But somehow he has a copy of your letter. It sounds like maybe Donald Young was on cleanup duty.
Somehow he has my phone number. Exactly. And that's exactly what it was. Because like I said, the first calls were, I was led to believe that he was with the campaign. The last conversation that I'd had with Donald Young, he had actually come clean and said that he had been asked to call me and that his job was to get as much information from me as far as who I had spoken to, who I had given any information to, and to get that to them. He had told me to be careful, to watch myself, and to understand that the Barack Obama campaign was not in any way, shape, or form going to acknowledge anything or come out about anything. and he had made it clear that he had known Barack for quite some time and had had an intimate relationship with Barack for quite some time.
He told you that.
Yep. And that's when I knew that I could at least trust what I was being told. Originally, I had made it clear I didn't feel comfortable with the phone call because something just didn't seem right. But after a couple of calls, it started to all fall into place. And I had said the same thing to myself.
Wait, so you didn't know Donald Young existed?
Nope.
It sounds like you're not very political anyway. You weren't.
I wasn't at the time.
And you were just annoyed that Obama was talking about cocaine and lying about it.
I was extremely annoyed.
But the sex part had nothing to do with it.
No.
Then Donald Young, who you don't know, never heard of, calls up and says, by the way, I know you had sex with Barack Obama. I did too.
Yep. Pretty much.
I mean, this is a longer conversation, which we're going to have in a minute. But I mean, Obama has a wife and kids, and he's telling America what a great family man he is. Is that, or maybe you've seen this a lot? What do you think of that?
Well, you know, in 2008, I made it clear that Obama was having marital problems in '99, and everybody in the world said that I was crazy, didn't know what I was talking about. And yet, what was it, 6 months ago, Barack Obama comes out and tells the world that exactly what I said was the truth. In 1999, he and Michelle came very close to divorce. Really? 15 years later, what I say is the truth, but 15 years earlier, I'm a liar and a fraud. It's interesting how things eventually come out. But yes, believe me,
Interesting.
I've known guys that were completely happily married that will screw around with another man on a weekly basis and think nothing of it.
Oh. Is it your sense that that's who Obama is, just transactional, or that he's bisexual, or like, what is this?
No, my feeling that Barack Obama is probably, he's definitely bi. I think there is a lot of transactional qualities to him, because I think whatever he does, it is looking for a hook or looking for a benefit.
Yeah. That's consistent with his public persona too, I would say. So
Yep.
Donald Young calls you. You actually end up, sounds like you kind of like and trust Donald Young.
I did.
Did he say how long he'd had a relationship with?
He had just said that they had been intimate for years.
Intimate for years. And what happened to Donald Young?
Donald Young was shot dead in his apartment, second floor in Chicago, Illinois. I think it was December 23rd of 2007. According to the police report and the death certificate, multiple gunshot wounds, close range, no forced entry, second floor apartment, yet not a single resident in the building heard a single shot, but yet they can hear every shot that's fired in the street outside. Jeremiah Wright announces that Donald Young's dead earlier that morning, even before it was announced, even before he was declared dead. I mean, a lot of it just didn't make sense.
This is all public, and you can look this up, and it's still on the internet. Tell us about Donald Young's mother.
Norma Jean Young actually is a former Chicago Police Department employee.
Really?
Really. She had worked for the Chicago PD. I had spoken with his sister Lorraine shortly after I realized that he was the gentleman that I had been speaking with. There were people at the time that were attempting to have Lorraine and other members of Donald's family file criminal complaints against me with Chicago because they wanted me arrested. They were trying to get the family to say that I was trying to con them or something. To my knowledge, they never did any such thing. But at the same time, I continue to respect Lorraine and the rest of the family. But Mrs. Young had finally come out and told David Nelson, who was a reporter that I knew out of Minnesota, that she was convinced that Donald had been killed, that his death was to protect his friend Obama. And she confirmed that they had, in fact, been extremely close for years.
I mean,
Wow.
did she confirm that they'd had sex, Obama and Donald Young?
Her confirmation wasn't referencing, or she did not specifically say that they were sexually involved. She just simply said that they had been intimate friends for years.
But she believed the Obama campaign was responsible.
She believed that his death was due to protecting Barack Obama. And I made the same argument that
So pause it here a second.
people said, well, how are
Okay.
you accusing Barack?
Okay, so this is what I want to know here. Did his handlers say that, you know, that David had to die, his lover had to die, and take care of it to protect Barack, or did Barack have some say in whether or not that guy had to die? That's what I don't understand.
I guess it would be one of the handlers.
I'm not understanding why they would take him out and not Sinclair, unless, you know, the David guy was going to speak up, because I feel like that would have a little bit more credibility than Larry Sinclair, right?
Well, yeah, because if they were having this multiple year thing, that would be harder to suppress than just saying, well, here's one weirdo out here that is claiming this, and he's probably just looking for attention.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm trying to, in a weird sort of way, like put myself in the shoes here. And so Barack Obama, intimately close with this gentleman, the David guy. It sounds like it wasn't just a physical relationship with those two. It sounds like they were kind of friends and hung out too. So there has to be some sort of a rapport, or at least some sort of an affection for them. But regardless of that, if you know anybody for any length of time, even if you're like Facebook friends for years and you've never met them in person, and they die, I mean, you're going to be affected by it. How would you be affected by something like that? I mean, is it just like, oh, well, you had to do what you had to do to take them out? Or, you know, is it like, well, I'm socially climbing? I guess Larry Sinclair kind of explained it by saying that Obama is always looking for an angle, always looking for a hook. Maybe that is the explanation. I know. What are your thoughts?
Well, he goes on with a little bit more of how he feels about Obama.
Okay.
Later in this.
Interesting. Yeah, I would definitely I would be curious about that, because it just seems like a really cold-blooded thing to do. But I mean, if Obama is one of those types of men that there are, that is married to a woman, allegedly, at least in his mind, and kind of like, you know, maybe like boys on the side type thing, maybe he doesn't care what happens to those men. I don't know.
Well, this guy kind of says it's more of a power trip with him.
But if he's doing what other people are telling him to do, he's a puppet. How is that a power trip? I guess, you know, if you're using drugs, who knows what you're thinking?
Yeah, your brain's fried with smoking crack.
Yeah, it's weird.
But you also have to look at who he surrounded himself with at this point.
So it's a transsexual wife, Rezko, and a bunch of
you got Axelrod thrown in there.
Axelrod.
Weirdos like Jeremiah Wright that was in the background. He's trying, at this point, Obama's kind of trying to distance himself from Wright, though, because Wright's a big problem.
Yeah, man, this is weird.
It's Illinois, I'm telling you.
Holy fuck, glad I don't live there.
Feel sorry for me.
Oh, okay.
I'm only 2 hours west of Chicago.
Well, stay away if you can.
I completely stay out of Chicago as much as I can. I think I've set foot in that town about as many times as I can count fingers my entire life.
Yeah, good plan.
Still got we got like another 11 minutes of this.
Okay, well, let's see how it finishes. Oh, hold on. Let me
I
get.
said, I'm not accusing Barack of anything, but I said, I'm willing to bet my life that Barack Obama and Jeremiah Wright both know or have knowledge of who killed Donald Young. There is no doubt in my mind about that.
Well, this was a guy who was clearly going to be the next leader of the world. You know, people kill each other over insurance claims, over bar fights. There's a lot at stake here. I have no knowledge of this. I'm not alleging a murder by the Obama campaign or its allies, but it's not a crazy thing to wonder, obviously.
No, and the only thing after I realized what had happened with Donald Young, the only thing I'd ever asked was the same thing that I had done. And I said, you know, if you want to accuse me of being crazy, you know, release your phone records. You know, turn over your phone records from your phone in '99. Turn over your phone records for the last year. I mean, it's that easy. If you've got nothing to hide, it's not like they're going to be made public. Turn them over to authorities. Let them investigate. Let them look. But no.
So now it seems like a fair time to ask about your motive. So your initial motive was you were annoyed because you believed or you knew that Obama was lying about his drug use.
Right.
But then after the Donald Young exchange, where he brings up the sex that you had with Obama, what was the point at which you decided, I'm just going to bring this to the country? I'm going to go public.
Well, in January of 2008, after having contacted the campaign yet again, I had decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to make a YouTube video and put it up, which I did. It wasn't because I was looking for anything out of it. In fact, if I had even stopped long enough to anticipate the blowback and the consequences of speaking out, me being me, it probably would not have stopped me. It might have slowed me a little bit, but it would not have stopped me. But I figured if you're going to call him out, you can't call him out on part of it. And people said, well, why didn't you just talk about the drug use and leave the sex out? And I said, because if I said he just used drugs and then you found out later it was drugs and sex, you would accuse me of lying because I didn't mention the sex. So my opinion was, if you're going to tell the story, then you tell the whole story and let the chips fall where they may. So that's exactly what I did.
And so you made a YouTube video. By the way, I looked for it last night. I couldn't find it.
That's because YouTube gave access to my account to someone shortly after the polygraph test. And I was never given access back to it before the video was actually deleted.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. YouTube gave access to the account and the video was deleted. Microsoft gave access to my Hotmail account and all of my emails were circulating the internet, and vacation replies were set up on my email telling people that I was busy giving blowjobs and would get back with them when I was done. And oh, yeah.
Wow.
Man, they wanted Obama to be president.
Yep. And they wanted me to be the biggest fraud and nutcase that ever existed.
So I got to ask you, I mean, you know, I wasn't there. I can only assess what you're saying. I don't see any obvious motive for you for gain, financial gain. You're not going to get rich doing this. And in fact, you haven't. You've gotten impoverished as a result of it. But like, if I'm a reporter, well, I was a reporter at the time. I remember thinking, well, that's an interesting story. But it seemed like nobody in the media wanted to follow up with you. And some people, like Ben Smith at Politico, who's a liar and a shill posing as a journalist, I reread the piece last night that he wrote saying, oh, it's ridiculous. Right off the first graph, it's ridiculous, these claims.
Well, I think I have an answer for why a lot of reporters did not want to follow up. And I think it would have something to do with what David Axelrod told a old Chicago Sun-Times reporter, or no, a Chicago Tribune reporter, John Crudson.
Axelrod had been a reporter in Chicago before
Okay.
he went into politics.
Well, John Crutzen worked for the Chicago Tribune, and John Crutzen actually came to Duluth, Minnesota, and sat down with me and talked with me. And John Crutzen had told me point blank that before he had flown out, that he had spoken to Axelrod, and that Axelrod had told him that they were aware of who I was, and that it was their intentions to destroy me, and that if any reporter had mentioned me to them, they would be completely cut off, and that outlet would be completely cut off from access to the Obama campaign for the duration of the year. So I think that had a lot to do with why reporters didn't bring things up to the campaign, because everybody wanted access to, the new savior. Nobody wanted to be blackballed and denied access to a historic campaign.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's the guy's running for
Wow.
president and credible information comes out that he's smoking crack and having sex with dudes, I mean, that seems like a story.
Well, it would be a story if the media really
No
cared
shit.
about telling people the truth about anything.
Yeah, they're liars. And that Ben Smith is a liar.
Oh, Ben Smith's more than a liar, but you're right.
What do you mean more than a liar?
He's a complete fraud. Ben Smith, I hear people talking about grifters. Ben Smith to me is a grifter. Ben Smith wrote an article saying that I had a 27-year
Criminal history.
career criminal. And the funny thing is if you look my criminal history up, which I've published myself and provided from day one, my criminal history goes from 1980 to 1986. And everything I've ever done, I've owned it. I've never wasted taxpayer money. And any sentence I've ever been given, I've served. But he also said that I was a fugitive, that I was avoiding prosecution. I was trying to prevent from going to jail. None of that was true. But the media ran with it. Even Greta linked to it and said that people asked me why I would not interview Larry Sinclair. This is why. And she linked to Ben Smith's article. And notice his article was published right when I was preparing to do the press conference at the National Press Club. But hey, the National Press Club, so-called beacon for freedom of the press, they were just as involved in trying to keep the story from ever being.
It's interesting. I watched the other night, I watched your entire National Press Club appearance, and in it, you detail your intersections with law enforcement exhaustively.
Yep.
Every time you've been arrested, you explain it. Every time you've done time, you explain it. So you didn't, from what I could tell, hide your past.
No, why? You can't. I mean, I've never hidden my past in regular everyday life. Why would I hide it in something like this?
So, I mean, you're the only person on this set who's had sex with Barack Obama. So I think you're, I don't know, expert on Obama, but you know more than most people. What's your assessment of him now?
I think he's the same grifter that he's always been. I think he's still very power hungry. I think Obama is calling the shots in the current Biden administration more than people are willing to admit. I think Obama is hell-bent. I had made a statement during that press conference that I felt that Barack Obama being elected was going to push race relations in this country backwards 50 years. I am absolutely positive I was.
Yes, I think you've been vindicated on that,
because race relations in this country has not only gotten pushed back, but everything's about race now. Everything is about victimization now.
It's interesting though. Yeah, he's obviously a race hater, very anti-white, but he had sex with a white man. So you have to ask, like, is that real?
Oh, for him, of course. I would be willing to bet you I'm not the only white person he's ever had sex with, or male anyway.
Yeah.
But hey, he's got what he wanted. He is in DC. He's living the life. He's still looked upon as being the savior of the country. And sadly, people are still giving him that power. And I think it's going eventually to be to the detriment of.
Can I just ask you one last question? How did you? I'm just thinking about it. It's very insightful because I I knew a lot of people who weren't liberal who voted for Obama purely on the race question.
Mhm.
And they weren't all self-hating, guilty whites. They were like nice, normal people who wanted to see race relations improve. And that really was the core promise of his campaign. And a lot of people bought it. A lot of smart people bought it.
Mhm.
And I saw why they
I
bought it.
bought it.
But you didn't buy it. How did you know that?
I grew up in South Carolina in the 1960s and 70s. Okay. I've been gay and knew I was gay since 6 years old. Never hid it. Okay.
Yeah.
I grew up in rural South Carolina. And my first job as a kid was cropping tobacco for a family by the name of Rose that were a black family living across the road from my grandparents. So I grew up as a kid, a gay kid, in an era and an area that would get you killed being gay just as quick as you could be hanging being black. So I actually knew the other side of the track before I knew that I was supposed to act like I was above this or above that. I've watched it my whole life. I know when someone plays, when it comes to acting like they're one way and then in reality they're the biggest racists or bigots alive on both sides. Okay. I knew because he was saying one thing in the campaign, and then if people started to actually listen to what he was saying, remember there was a time when he actually told supporters to show up at a fight with a knife, get in people's face, argue with them if they didn't agree to support him, if they didn't agree to vote for him, argue with them, convince them. Come on. You don't make statements like that and tell me that you're not going to make things about race. He did.
Man, that is the one part of your story that we can say unequivocally you're telling the truth about. You saw that and most people didn't. Larry Sinclair, I'm really grateful that you came. I wish I had interviewed you in 2008. I don't think anyone would have run the interview. But
Boy, isn't that true?
anyway, thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
You too.
Wow. Well, that was interesting. I don't even know what to say.
A lot there that was like, what the heck?
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show you the types of people that the deep staters, that the people that actually run the country, the people behind the scenes are looking for, and the type of people that they are. I mean, this is just, I mean, I'm trying to think of it again from like a CIA intelligence kind of point of view here. And maybe you want somebody that uses drugs and knows how to handle using drugs. I mean, I don't know. It seems like I've got that part of it is, and they really want a good leader, somebody that's tough. And then on the other end of the equation, I'm like, well, they want somebody that's actually weak and compromised, and that's why they went for somebody like an Obama.
Well, it makes sense because you look over Obama's record here in Illinois, he did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. For the couple of years he was in, he didn't sponsor nothing. He didn't put things forward. He was just a body there to vote for the Democrats.
It was just basically sheep dipped.
Yep. And it kind of made sense to me that somebody else would want to push somebody that could control. Just look what they got now. They got Biden, somebody they can just put out there, mumble a few words, stumble off a stage, trip over a sandbag or something, and there's other people running this show.
Yeah.
And like, you can completely believe that he would be blackballed and media would be told to stay away, because we've seen it in the last presidential election when there was a news story that would come out about a certain son of a president. What did everybody do? They locked down their accounts. They said it was all disinformation, bullshit, and everything else.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, this is very interesting. Tehillim29 says, because drugs help dull those who believe they are smart. Man, look, this is probably shocking stuff for people to hear that haven't come from like a background where they have maybe a family member that's been addicted, although a lot of people do. But as somebody that's seen addiction really close up, the prospect that somebody with a problem like that could be in his position is a pretty frightening proposition. I mean, this dude, and I guess I guess he wasn't really running much. I guess he was a lot like Biden in that he's just kind of told what to do and there to sign bills, and the national security state was probably doing the rest. But still, I mean, that's
Seriously, it's not our first president that had a past with cocaine.
oh, for sure. Yeah. Clinton, George W., probably even George H.W. He probably just kept a little bit more quiet than other people.
And didn't we just hear recently they found cocaine in the White House again?
They did indeed, yes. It's hard for them to find out from who, though, oddly enough.
Yeah, I know. I bet if it was something deadly, they would have known exactly who brought that in there with all those video cameras around. But
yeah. Video cameras, the trace evidence, all that stuff. Yeah, everybody that I was listening to law enforcement call into some talk shows, and they're like, "Oh yeah, if we could have figured it out, we know the Secret Service could have figured it out."
they know who brought it in.
Yeah, who was using it is the question.
Well, my odds on bet is the same one that's had problems using it in the past that makes him forget that he left laptops places.
Well, that's definitely a possibility, but I mean, at this point, look at some of the weird shit Biden, the big guy does.
I think the big guy is just his brain's totally fried at this point.
It is totally fried, but before it was fried, he was hanging out with his, showering with his daughter and stuff. I'm getting some really weird effects here on my screen. It's very strange. Seems like when we talk about controversial topics, things get a little weird.
It's looking good on this end.
Yeah, for me, it's getting weird. I'm getting like glitching and stuff. And it's weird because it's not just glitching on the laptop; it's glitching on my phone too, which is a little strange. Since those are two separate devices, but they are connected to the Wi-Fi. Maybe that's what it is.
They're trying to slow you down.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, they've already done their damage if they were intending to. That my channel went the old channel went absolutely nowhere. The new channel, it's moving, but it's not. Everything that the old channel was is pretty much gone. So it's yeah. I mean, I don't know. It keeps glitching. It's
only going to get worse.
Yeah. Yeah, see, it keeps you can't see it, but the way it's glitching out. So I'm off camera right now, right?
Yep.
Well, it's glitching out and it's showing me on camera. So I don't understand how that's possible when I have the button off and I'm looking at the YouTube preview and it's not happening over there. It's really weird. Really weird.
Getting closer and closer to another election, so you know what we got to go through.
Fucking shit. Yeah, it gets worse and worse every year. Yeah. Keely Chow. If Biden's daughter was black, I would have given her a golden shower. Oh, God. You know what? I actually saw that, too. Yeah, he peed all over that girl, man. She didn't even... I don't think she knew it was coming. But she didn't look like she was underage.
That'd be first.
Killy Chow says, you did nothing wrong, Wes. Those Star Trek porn parodies were as clean as they can be. Well, plus YouTube has stuff that, dare I say it, is titillating and not banned right now. I mean, I guess what you need to be is like a really unattractive, a really unattractive butch woman with like pancake titties and war paint, and then that's okay to show on YouTube. I don't know. I'm confused.
It's all who's doing it and who's not doing it.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, we're doing. You know what? And I was listening to the Quartering today, and he's encountering the issues that I had on the old channel, where you'll get a copyright note, you'll get a community guideline strike, and it'll be for something that's not in the video. And he'll ask for a timestamp, and they'll be like, "Fuck you, no timestamp." And that's exactly what happened to me. So, Quartering's doing some good work, man. He had Salty Cracker on the other day.
Apparently, he was going to interview that one weird chick that's on Twitter. Asimov, whatever the hell her name is.
Oh, really?
Hey, he was going to interview her too. Here, I don't know. Tonight, tomorrow, I don't know. I don't really care about those girls that lick things on the camera for money.
Yeah, it's a little weird. So is Larry Sinclair telling the truth? With 8 votes, 6 of you say he is telling the truth. 2 of you say not telling the truth. You think, D. Jodeci, do you think that he's telling the truth?
I don't know. It's, at the beginning, I wasn't really thinking so, but then when things started to keep adding up with the guy that involved with Wright and all that, ended up offed.
Mm-hmm.
Things kind of look a little bad there. Now, do I think Obama was directly involved with it? No, I think more or less the handlers at the time did that because they didn't want to lose their champion.
Do you think they gave him a heads up before they did it?
I think they gave him a warning that this is what's going to happen, and if you don't play ball, could be what happens.
So like the Bill Hicks routine.
Yep.
It's the Kennedy assassination from an angle you've never seen before. Like
That's the chick.
Amaranth. Okay. Is that the chick that kept having her dog hump her?
I don't know. At one point she was wearing a horse head bouncing on a bed, and I don't try to keep up with that. I only know that part of it because of Snow Dub.
Well, I don't know about that. There was the chick that she had this dog, and the dog kept trying to hump her, and she would be doing like yoga poses, and the dog would very aggressively sniff her crotch and start licking down. Oh, God. And everybody, people are just like, what is going on with your dog, lady?
Pretty obvious. It's doing more than that when off camera.
God, what is wrong with people? Well, she was kissing the dog a lot on camera. So, I mean, I don't know.
World's full of real weirdos.
There are some real weirdos out there. Man. I don't even know what to say at this point. Any concluding thoughts on the interview and the Larry Sinclair event here, testimony, situations?
I'm guessing by tomorrow, Tucker will once again be all over every social media as a big conspiracy guy. And we'll have the normal crybaby and whiners that bow and pray to Obama, wanting him banned.
Yep. Well, yeah, I think, man, I think it's getting kind of late. I think we've
2 a.m. for me.
Yeah, it's about midnight. I'm going to go home and rethink my life. Don't sell death sticks. You don't want to sell me death sticks. So with that, yeah, I think we'll wrap things up. Go ahead and where can the folks find you?
They can find me over on my channel. Lately, I've been playing 7 Days to Die. It's a zombie game thing. And once in a while, bitching about the victimhood people.
There you go. Let me see. I think I've got a link to you somewhere here.
Can't miss me. You just go to DJ Odyssey. It's the guy with the bunny suit on.
Dang it. Hold on. I haven't used this file so long. I can't find it. So DJ Odyssey, that's where you want to find him. And that's been our show. With that, thanks for watching. If you like sporadic, mediocre YouTube content, Conspiracy or Conspiracy may just be the channel for you. Love if you'd subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, share the stream, and don't forget to ring that bell for an 11% chance of notifications.
Hey, you're lucky. My viewers only get a 2% chance.
What? How did I get so lucky?
I don't know.
Well, in either case, you can't say you're overserved from either my channel or DJ Odyssey's channel. So, yeah.